Hello YouTube world, this is Nicholas Montez here, and welcome back to the movie Archivist, everyone. Alright, so, I don't know if this live stream will count as like a July 13th one, because I'm starting it on July 12th. But I don't know if it's gonna count, because I'm pretty sure it'll end July 13th. But, okay, so, yeah, so, if you guys know me, so yeah, today we're reviewing the newest live-action Disney remake, Moana. If I'm going to be honest with you guys, you know, when this movie was first announced, I was not really excited for it. And even when coming to this movie, I was not very excited for it. Just because, and that's kind of a first for me, because most of the live-action remakes that come out, they usually tend to be based off films that I tend to enjoy. And while I enjoy Moana, I love Moana, it just seems a little too soon. Like, I would have maybe appreciated, like, a Princess and the Frog remake or a Big Hero 6 remake. But Moana, like, what exactly do you change in that? And also, why'd you remake it? It's just way too soon. It turns 10 years this year. Like, it's just too soon. And also, like, you know, the trailers look cool, I guess. But even then, like, nothing of it is, like exciting to me. Plus, I also wasn't the biggest fan of Moana 2, which I know that doesn't have the biggest of relevance, but I just wasn't really looking forward to this. And then, of course, you know, everybody said it was just not necessary. The Rotten Tomato score kind of proves it. So, what did I think after watching Moana remake? And, to be honest, I kind of liked it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this movie is as good as the original. Nothing can beat the original Moana. Honestly, it's kind of hard to talk about because the original Moana isn't particularly one of my favorite Disney movies. I mean, it's great. I love it. But I don't put it at on the top tier, like the Renaissance movies, or like Zootopia or Tangled, or even Frozen for that matter. I love Frozen. But when it comes to this one, I think overall, I think part of the reason why I liked it was because I just enjoyed this story. I enjoyed seeing this story in a different format. You know, I like all the village stuff. I like some of the humor. I like some of the changes of everything. Of course, I don't think any of the songs really, like, improved anything. I think there were times where I actually did get chills a little bit, but I don't know if it was forced for me or because I naturally just got chills when watching it, but overall, most of the songs were pretty much better than the original. But I did kind of like the way they interpreted some of these scenes in live action. Like, when we get the shiny part of the sequence and we're in the Tamatoa's, like, lair, they do, like, this really cool thing in his lair to where it's like it uses like all these sea creatures as like for lighting, and it's really cool. I think probably the big, and then of course you also got You're Welcome, which I think is actually a really good song in here. It's actually really fun in the way they visualize it. But that's also something else I really liked about the movie was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which of course I was nervous because I'm like, how do you bring this character to live action? But then you're like, honestly, I think of the performances here, it actually does kind of work. Because I think that's kind of the whole point of doing a remake is you don't want to just make it shot for shot, but you want to find the right person that can incorporate it in a live action sense. And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson portrays it well. Of course, he's not having to do a cartoony character, but at the same time, he's able to be serious but funny enough because, you know, like, I loved him in the Fast and Furious films. You know, he has that dry sense of humor. And that's kind of what he does here. And I kind of like it. And you kind of feel a difference in his arc throughout the movie. And plus, you know, you can really just feel the love that he got to do for this movie. And even then, I like the actress that plays Moana, too, as well. I mean, personally, because there was so much marketing, like, bro, when I tell you, that same clip where you're like, you will board my boat, and it has the original actress to play Moana and the new actress that plays the new Moana, basically saying it sarcastically, disappointed, flirtatiously, like, it is insane. That ad has been coming up on my TikTok and Instagram like so many times the last few weeks. It's insane. It's basically just like, Nick, you need to go watch this movie. You are a Disney fan. You need to go watch Moana. But yeah, so I saw that, but yeah, but she actually adds something kind of new to the role. I mean, nothing too much, but you can definitely tell that she has a little bit of charm, and she's a little bit charming. And whereas, not to say Moana in the original is unlikable, but it's like, I think when it comes to the singing voice of Moana, she's good. But when it comes to the actual character, I don't know. It's like, I think the character journey was great. But when we actually get to spend time with Moana this time around, it's actually pretty interesting. So I kind of liked it. But yeah, so that's kind of all the big takeaways. Also, the special effects actually worked in here for me. Now, normally when it comes to CGI and special effects, they don't normally do well. But if you're able to do it in a live action setting, I think it does kind of fit. Like all the stuff with Taka and everything, and the way Maui like transforms and jumps and transforms into animals. At first I was thinking, well, the way they're going to do that just seems kind of goofy. And him having like a shark head, him turning into a hawk. Like, all that stuff just seemed, I thought was going to seem corny, but honestly, it kind of fits in the movie they're doing. So, yeah, I didn't really have any problems with that. So, I kind of liked it. Alright, so, I'm going to do a tier list with you guys on all the live-action Disney remakes. But before I do that, I actually want to give you a ranking of the Moana content that we've gotten in the last 10 years. So, which includes Moana, Moana 2, and the Moana remake. So, in last place, easily, is Moana 2. I think this movie is fine. The animation is great, but pretty much everything is forgettable, from the story, to the characters, to the music. Everything is forgettable. And it's crazy that Lin-Manuel Miranda did not come back to do the sequel for the music, and he went on to go do Mufasa, which is kind of disappointing, but whatever. Second place is going to go to the live-action Moana remake, because while it's not as good as the original, it definitely should not exist, but it is something kind of entertaining for a summer blockbuster weekend. But it's pretty good. But easily coming in first place is the original Moana that came out 10 years ago. I think that this is a great animated movie that really does great with the animation of water and everything that it does. It is a masterful film. Now, I will say this. When I was rewatching it a little bit this past weekend, and I think these 3D animated films, yeah, they're starting to look a little outdated. And that's not a bad thing, but at the same time, it's like, you could tell that that animation style, it's starting to age out a little bit, and we need to create some new kind of animation. So that's kind of my thoughts, but okay. Let's go ahead and get started talking about live-action Disney remakes tier list. Let me clear my camera. I don't know why it's so dirty. Why is it so dirty? My God. Okay, I think it's better now. Yeah. Alright, so yeah, so this will be the ultimate tier list to decide what is the best remake. I already know what's the best remake, but I won't say what it is. But I actually don't really know where where Moana would stick in here. But, alright, let's do this. So we start off with the Jungle Book from 1994, and as the first remake that kicked this whole thing off, I would actually say it's a solid remake. Now, I don't think at this time this was really considered a remake of it, but it is a Disney movie, and it's based off Rudyard Kipling's book. So yeah, I'm gonna put this one in C. I think it's good, but also I don't think I've seen it in a long time. So that's my thoughts on that. We then have 101 Dalmatians. This is like the big remake of the 90s that came out, and honestly, I actually had a lot of fun with it. I thought Glenn Close was really good casting as Cruella de Vil. I think overall, it's a solid remake. The fact that of all the Disney movies, this was one of the first ones to actually get remade. And it really does work. Like, it's funny, it's fun, and it adds more emphasis on the human characters while still having fun moments with the dogs. and it's like it's pleasant enough. Granted, I think the reason why it works is also because I don't think 101 Dalmatians, the original movie from 1961, was as a great film, but the way you can adapt in live action, I thought was pretty good. So I'll put this one in the B category. So then we have 102 Dalmatians, and unfortunately, I have to give this one the lower scoop because I don't think this was as good of a movie. I'm going to put this one in the F tier, unfortunately. I just don't really like this movie. I think there are some kind of cute plot lines with it, but I just think overall the movie just had a lot of terrible stuff going with it. So yeah, I didn't really care for it. We have Alice in Wonderland, directed by Tim Burton and starring Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. This was an interesting one because this was like one of the first remakes where they kind of made a sort of sequel rather than a remake. But there were some kind of weird stuff in here. I think Tim Burton, I don't know if it was inspired to do the remake, but I thought the movie was okay. I didn't really find that much interesting with it, mainly because I also didn't really care for the original Alice in Wonderland movie from 1951 from Disney. So yeah, I just didn't care for this one as much. We then have The Sorcerer's Apprentice. So this is actually based off of a segment in Fantasia, the classic Mickey Mouse sequence, and they turned it into a movie starring Nicolas Cage and Jay Baruchel from How to Train Your Dragon. And I actually did kind of like this one. Like, it is kind of fun. It feels like classic 2000s movie. But the thing is, it doesn't feel like it, like, I don't understand how this fits into a Disney remake. Like, just make a Disney, like, it's so weird, but it's like, it's good, but it's such an oddity when it comes to being a Disney remake. Like, I don't know, it's just so weird. So I'm going to put this one in the C tier. But now we have my first great one that I love, and that's Maleficent. And I think Maleficent is easily one of the best live-action remakes we've done so far. And I think the reason why is because this movie, while mainly being the same plot of Sleeping Beauty, it creates itself to be its own story because it's able to develop the characters that we didn't really know before. And so by the time you get to the Sleeping Beauty story, you actually feel something with all these characters. Because I think that's what kind of made Sleeping Beauty a little bit better than most of those Disney films, is that, like, they established a world, they established all these characters, they had this story where the fairies go and raise Princess Aurora, but we don't really know anything about the parents, we don't know anything about Aurora, and that's it. But now that we have an understanding of what happened, it kind of makes everything feel a lot more cleansed up, and it makes, Angelina Jolie's performance is great as Maleficent. And then likewise, I think there's a lot of, epic action battles here. And honestly, the only flaw I really have with it is it's the whole, like, forest people, which I think is kind of underdeveloped. But honestly, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but man, is it really great. And I think it's fantastic. So I'm going to put this one in the A tier. Also, the version of Once Upon a Dream from Lana Del Rey was also really good in the credits. We then have Cinderella, directed by Kenneth Branagh. And I think that this is a pretty masterful film. To where, kind of like 101 Dalmatians, this one doesn't need to reinvent the whole story. I think, similar to Maleficent, you just need to add some new elements about Cinderella's past and what her parents were like, and you got to understand that. But you also how do you cast people to play the evil stepmother and the evil mother, and the evil stepsisters, and make them just even more evil, and like make them more hateful, and understand why, and the whole journey of that, I just think is really good. And even in the original Cinderella, I think is still really good, but it's not a great Disney movie. This one kind of like makes it a lot better of a movie for me. So I'll put this one in the B category. And now we have Jon Favreau's The Jungle Book from 2016. And I'm debating if I want to do a video essay next week for 3 big Disney movies, and The Jungle Book is actually going to be one of them. Because what this movie did, unlike any other Disney remake, is that it wasn't just a shot-for-shot remake. It was the film that took everything you loved about the original film, but they reinvented and created something really special and brand new. When it comes to the story, there's actually a great story here where you're making this world of this jungle feel lived in. You're actually having specific roles for the characters to mean something, whether it's Bagheera being involved with Mowgli and the wolves. You actually have the wolves play a bigger part in here. You have the vultures have a little spot. The elephants are more alive and they feel like bigger than ever, like these big creatures that are the protectors, the creators of the jungle. I love Baloo and his little honey plot. Shere Khan, played by Idris Elba, he's so scary, like it's insane. I just think overall this movie is perfect on every level, and I can't think of any other movie that can succeed at that. Also, King Louie as Christopher Walken as King Louie, great, and I love the whole backstory of like orangutans are not native to India, so they decided to bring him in as like a Gigantopithecus, which was an orangutan-like creature that existed in India millions of years ago, and so they basically made him like the last remains of that. And I thought that was like such a unique thing that they did. So overall, because of everything that Jon Favreau built with this movie, I gotta say this is the best live-action movie we've gotten so far. And speaking of not so good remakes, it is Alice Through the Looking Glass. I think Alice Through the Looking Glass is, pretty bad. Now, I will say the only one positive factor that I'll actually give it is the time warping effects. The time twisting, time effects, I think are cool, but there's not much that really comes from that after that. I think everything from the plot, and it's just unlikable. Just not good. We then have Pete's Dragon, which I actually think is also pretty good. Mainly because the original Pete's Dragon was just not a really entertaining movie. And that's kind of disappointing because, like, I watched that original movie when I was going to watch this one, and I did not care about it at all, but the original one. But this one, I at least give it a sense of it, and so it definitely made sense to be remade, even though it wasn't a feature-length Disney animated film. I don't care, but I still pretty liked it. So, it's going to go in the B category. We then have Beauty and the Beast, based off the 1991 classic. And, to be honest, I don't really understand why people hate this movie so much. Like, I think the production value is what makes the movie good. I mean, like, the visual effects of the Beast, all the characters are pretty good. So I think the performances, they all land well with every character they're playing. I think Luke Evans is really good at casting as Gaston. I like, what's the guy's name from Frozen? Josh Gad as LeFou. I think he's good at casting. I think the songs in here, there are some ones that are just absolute bops too. Like the Gaston song. There's a lot of great songs that are being used in here. I think are great. But unfortunately, I mean, I don't really have much to complain about with this one. Is it as good? No, not really. I can't really think of a highlighting factor that makes it good besides some of the performances and everything. But I'm gonna put this one in C. It's a C movie. We then have Christopher Robin. And in my opinion, I think that this is a movie that fits the template of what Disney remakes can do. Because it's essentially kind of doing the Hook story template, where we're doing a story of, the old guy is visiting his childhood home, and he's visiting his childhood friends. And, it's a sweet movie. You can kind of do this with almost any kind of children's movie, where he's, like, playing with toys and everything. But honestly, I think it honestly works. Like, it works. Ewan McGregor as Christopher Robin is pretty fun. I think Jim Cummings coming back as all these characters again, and all the other Winnie the Pooh characters are coming back. I think was really fun. And it really just captured the Winnie the Pooh characters right. But at the same time, like, it's hard to tell because I also like the Winnie the Pooh. While I do like the Winnie the Pooh films, I don't necessarily love them because I think they're really weird in the way they tell stories for feature films. But that's just my personal opinion. I'm going to put this one in the B category. Yeah. We then got Dumbo, and while I don't hate this one as others, as much as other people do, I am not really the biggest fan. Like, they remade an animated film that was an hour and 4 minutes, and basically made it almost 2 hours. And they basically made it to focus on a bunch of human characters we don't really care about. And I think that's the worst example of what to do in here. Granted, it's at least a little bit better watchable than the last two films I mentioned. So I'll put this one in here in F. It's easily one of my least favorites. We then have Aladdin, which in my opinion is not a least favorite one. It's actually one of my personal favorites. And I think the reason why is while I do love the original Aladdin, I think compared to this one kind of has a lot more fun stuff in it. Where I feel like the first movie just kind of goes a little too fast-paced to where it's like we never really get, like, the whole thing with the movie is we're all into that adventure side of Aladdin, that when it comes to the quiet moments to know these characters, we don't really get to know them all that much. And the way they designed this story for this movie, they kind of were able to do that a little bit more. It's the same adventure, most of the same scenes, but throughout the entire movie I'm thinking, yeah, that's not really what's happening here. Like, yeah, we get the iconic whole new world sequence. We get all the stuff with Will Smith and the genie and him becoming a prince. And they change some stuff up. And so it kind of fixes it in the way where it's not just a shot-for-shot remake. They actually do some pretty different stuff. They have a new character in here called Dahlia. They have some new stuff with Genie and a love story with that. Like, it's all cool. The only disappointing thing that I would actually say is bad about this movie is the whole Jafar stuff. Like, I hated that stuff. I did not like what they did with him. But also, like, I kind of like the way they did Princess Jasmine and the way they kind of made more of the security characters more as probable characters. Overall, I just thought the movie was very good, and it was a great it was a great remake of Aladdin. It did exactly what it needed to do. And now like Jungle Book, I am very disappointed that a Jungle Book 2 and an Aladdin 2 are no longer going to be made. But that's unfortunate. We then, of course, have The Lion King 2019. And for me, I think that this is a great live-action remake. Of course, coming off the Jungle Book, of course, Jon Favreau knew how to do this movie. All the visual effects, they're pretty awesome. The fact that he created this whole world with just computers on a sound stage, it's pretty remarkable stuff. And of course, because I technically enjoy this kind of story, and I enjoy the original movie so much, and I love the first movie, I think, for me, it's just great. Of course, I love all the songs. I think all of them are really big bops. Besides Can You Feel the Love Tonight? That one really lacked emotion. But, all the characters are so fun, and just everything about the way that this movie was crafted was just expertly well done. And honestly, there's parts I like more than the original, and there's parts I like that are better than the original. Like, obviously, the Circle of Life scene is not going to do better. I think Timon and Pumbaa are actually a little bit better in this movie than I think in the original. Though they do get a little bit annoying in Mufasa. And then of course I think like the Hans Zimmer score, the fact that he came back to do this movie, it's great. So I think for me, as just a joyous fan of The Lion King, this is going to go in the A tier. I think for me it's got to go. And now obviously I can understand, like, the lions don't emote, so it's like it's just terrible. I can understand that, but honestly at the end of the day I kind of stopped caring. We then have Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Yeah, this is a difficult one to talk about because I was really excited for how they were going to do this movie, but it just started to become really a big mess of things. And granted, I saw this movie before I ever saw the first Maleficent, so I don't really have too much to say on it. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this in like the D category, or yeah, because I don't hate it as much as other people do, but it is kind of enjoyable. I don't know. We then got Lady and the Tramp. This is also one that I think is kind of It was it kind of got overhated because it basically was just put on Disney Plus. It was just put on Disney Plus for like an opening day, and pretty much ever since then I haven't heard anyone talk about it since. And what's so crazy is my sister, I don't know if she just didn't care about it all that much, but she didn't even finish it. Like, and she's a huge Lady and the Tramp fan, especially of the original film. So, and I mean, as for the film itself, it's fine. You know, the voice actors for the puppies, for the characters are cool. Part of me does kind of want to go back and rewatch it to like see if it's worth anything, because there were parts I did kind of find entertaining, but I definitely don't find it as good as the original movie. But I'll put this one in like C because I didn't enjoy it. All right, now we have Mulan. And this is also an interesting one because this was another film that came out on Disney Plus, but it was not in the normal way that Lady and the Tramp did. This was during the COVID times where, and matter of fact, this was actually the first COVID live action remake we were getting on this list, where essentially, this was essentially a film that was released under the Premiere Access, meaning you had to pay for the film for like $30. And then, or you would like have access to it for like 30 days. And then you get it for free until like the next few days. Or like I watched it in December after it came out in September. And for what I got from it, I thought the film was actually pretty good. Now, compared to the original Mulan, it's nowhere near as being as good as that film. But what I thought was really good about it was that, as much as other remakes can, incorporate different stories, they can create something original. Mulan is actually a film that didn't need to do a whole lot, but what it needed to do was just stay very serious and not really lack any tension. And I think that's kind of what this movie did, to where it basically was just a serious war movie. And it's, it doesn't have musical numbers, it doesn't have a talking dragon named Mushu. It's just able to be a serious, action-packed war movie. And, the visual effects are incredible. Not the visual effects. The action sequences are pretty cool. The character of Mulan, the way they kind of change certain things, it's really cool. And so, overall, the movie just worked actually pretty well. Now, I can understand why you would get hated on, but, like, honestly, it's actually one of the more solid remakes that we've gotten in the last few years. So, for that reason, I'm actually going to put this one in the B category. So, yeah, I overall really like Mulan. Next up, we have Cruella. And, once again, just another remake that actually just understands what these types of movies need to be. With Christopher Robin and Maleficent and Jungle Book, these movies understand what these remakes are all about. That they can just tell a story about a person, about a Disney character. And when they did first announce that Emma Stone was going to be playing Cruella de Vil, or at least a younger version of her, I didn't really know what to think about it. But honestly, I think her performance is great. I think maybe she was also nominated for an Oscar. I don't think so, because I already know Emma Stone won for Poor Things, but whatever. Cruella did win an Oscar for Best Costume Design, so that was a thing. So I think overall Cruella is a really good movie. It's a fun heist movie. I think there's some plot lines with like her backstory that I think are kind of weird, but honestly, because I'm not the biggest 101 Dalmatians fan, I don't really care. Even though I'm technically supposed to care because it's a movie, but at the same time, like, I just don't care. But I'll actually put it, like, in the top category, in B category. So, that's my thoughts on that. We then got Pinocchio 2022, another film that was just put onto Disney Plus. Except Cruella actually was able to be released in theaters and on Disney Plus. Yeah, we watched it on Disney Plus when it came out because we didn't feel like doing that premiere access thing. But Pinocchio didn't have the premiere access. We just watched it for free, and it was fine. To be honest, I don't really remember much from it. I remember liking it a little bit, even though there was some corny stuff in it. I thought Joseph Gordon-Levitt was pretty good at casting as Jiminy Cricket. I thought it was kind of fun. Tom Hanks as Geppetto was pretty good. But it is kind of forgettable. There's not much stuff that I really go back to when I watch this movie. And obviously, it's not as good as the original Pinocchio. So, that's one thing. So, I'm actually going to put this one in the D category. So, yeah. Now, one movie that's not going to go in the D category is actually going to go at the bottom, and that is Peter Pan and Wendy. So, this was another Disney Plus original movie, and honestly, I fucking hated this movie. Now, I'm going to be honest, I actually kind of do like the original Peter Pan movie, and I actually know a friend in the comment section that actually, yes, I'm calling you out, that actually is a huge fan of Peter Pan. Like, he was obsessed with him, and he loves him. And I don't know if he's still in the stream, but whatever. Hopefully he comes back and he'll notice it. But with Peter Pan and Wendy, it's I like the original Peter Pan. I think it's a good movie, and there's a lot of great source material for it to be remade into a Disney film, and it really just cut the bag of how bad this movie was. Now, I do think there was kind of an interesting story of making a movie about that Peter Pan and Captain Hook were once friends, so it kind of adds some history and some backstory. But it just kind of got fumbled so bad to where it just feels so cheap. Like, there's not much action going on. And throughout the entire thing, when we were watching it, it was like, me and my family were just kind of bored. Like, I don't know, like, everything just felt so uninspired. Like, I don't know, I was bored the entire way through. Like, I just could not get through this. I finished it, of course, but, man, this was a boring one to sit through. They really fumbled the bag. If they decide to make a sequel to this, I guess, but, yeah, I did not like this one. So, yeah, F. But then we also have The Little Mermaid 2023, and honestly, I actually really love this movie. Now, I haven't seen it in a while, but I think what really stood out from this movie was really just Halle Bailey's performance as Ariel. Now, I'm a little biased right now because, Halle Bailey, she's like one of my big celeb crushes. Like, she is gorgeous, and also her voice is amazing, and, I really liked her in Yumi and Tuscany. She really needs to make more movies because I think she is a pretty good actress, and she's very sweet and kind, and I think there could be more movies with her. But as for the movie itself, I think this is actually one of the few remakes where, kind of similar to Aladdin, where I don't think it's as good as the original. Little Mermaid is still a film that is, I think the original one is still better, but what makes it a little bit better, what improves on it, is the relationship between Ariel and Eric. Once they finally get together, you understand the relationship because it's actually developed. And I think for me, that's what I feel with this movie. That all their moments together, they're sweet, they're charming. I think, some of the CGI, it's a little bit wonky, but at the same time, I still kind of liked it. And so, yeah, it's just overall a great film. I think a lot of the casting decisions, there's a lot of stuff that works here, but there's also a lot of stuff that doesn't work. So it's like, it's such a weird mess, but at the same time, it still all works. A lot of the stuff works, though. So, I'm actually going to put this as one of my favorite remakes. This is one of my absolute favorite remakes. Then we have Mufasa, the Lion King. This is a difficult one. Because on the one hand, I do really enjoy this movie. There's a few parts I do like. I think, this was one of my most anticipated movies of all time. I'm a massive Lion King fan. I want to learn more about Mufasa and what happened to him. And I think in the way they framed of doing a Mufasa origin movie in live action, I just don't think it was able to work out that well. Now that I think about it, because to make him an orphan is an interesting idea, and I think they could have expanded on something like that. And they overall do kind of do it well. With, Mufasa wasn't originally going to be the king, Scar was, but he didn't have the tendrils to be the king because his father wasn't really teaching him good stuff, and he was just being lazy. That's why he was so scared. But that's also what kind of creates the villainy in him, because he was just so rejected by society. And so you kind of understand it, but I wish they did it a little bit better. Plus, also the villain, it just kind of is forgettable. Like, Kyros is pretty cool, but also the music in here is kind of forgettable, but also kind of memorable at the same time. Just overall, the movie works on its own terms, but at the same time, it's like there's also some moments in here that just feel forced. Like, I don't know, it's a mixed bag. All I'll say is it's better than I'm gonna put this in the C here because it's still a Lion King movie. It's still entertaining. I do think it's kind of weird that Lin-Manuel Miranda decided to do the soundtrack for this movie instead of Lebo M or Elton John or anyone else. But I think that this movie is pretty decent, but that's all I can really say about it. We then have Snow White. So unlike other people, I don't really hate this movie like everyone else does. Now, I can understand the problems and the background that, like, Rachel Zegler was saying this movie is weird and everything. But honestly, you kind of just stop caring about that at times, because the movie's actually pretty good. And I know that seems like a heart attack to some people, because people hated this movie when it came out, and they still do. They hate on it forever. But if I'm going to be honest, I actually did kind of enjoy it. Like, I don't know. Like, I think once we got the Seven Dwarfs was actually pretty good. I think, Rachel Zegler's voice is pretty good as Snow White. I think in the way they kind of changed certain elements of the story, kind of like Cinderella did, but they also added, like, a personality to the prince, and made him like a Robin Hood kind of character, I thought was kind of fun and interesting. And making the love story a little bit more meaningful. Because you watch the original movie, and it's kind of like the prince just kind of comes out of nowhere, and he's just kissing a 13-year-old or 14-year-old girl. And when the only time they ever interacted was when he scared her off. Like, it's so weird. But in this movie, it's like it kind of felt a little bit better. Obviously, the original Snow White is still going to be better. It's still a classic. But with this new one, it is still pretty good. So, I'm actually going to give this a solid, decent one. Put it in the C tier. And now we have Lilo and Stitch. This is an interesting one, because on paper, I like the original Lilo and Stitch. I mean, I love the original Lilo and Stitch. And so when they announced that they're making a live-action remake, I was like, okay, this actually fits. I'm excited for that. But then we got the movie, and honestly, I felt like after coming out of it, I was like, now thinking about it, I have no interest in rewatching it. And honestly, it's like, first off, I think it was meant to be an original Disney Plus movie. I'm not saying that. That's what the people are saying. And honestly, just thinking about it, I can't find any specific factor that I loved, or like there's not a specific moment in the film that like made me entertained or made me laugh. I will say this. I think in the way they kind of created a lot of unique things of the Lilo and Stitch world was actually pretty unique. Like, kind of getting some of the actors from the original Lilo and Stitch movie, like the girl that played Nani in the original movie to be the social worker, or to play Jason Scott Lee to be the guy that played David, who's Nani's boss in the film. I thought that was kind of cool. Having Cobra Bubbles be like this FBI agent was kind of interesting, and also putting Jumba and Pleakley as humans instead of just having them as big aliens wearing makeup and disguises Like, it does feel, it makes the movie a little bit more grounded in a way. So it's like, I kind of liked it. But also it's like, man, Jumba is so unlikable. I think he's so miscast. Like, oh my god. But, like, there were some entertaining things, but it just kind of felt weird. And I don't really want to go back. Like, I haven't even mentioned it to my family that we should go back and rewatch it. And even, like, the actresses between Nani and Lilo, like, I don't know. I just don't really know if they fit. It felt like they were too forced. So, I'm putting this one in the D category, unfortunately. And finally, we have 2026's Moana. And Moana is actually a pretty good remake. Now, obviously, is this movie necessary at all? No. But, did I still have fun with it? Did I enjoy, you know, some of the music? Did I enjoy Dwayne The Rock Johnson's glorious hair? Did I enjoy some of the visual effects? Did I have fun with this world in this version of the film, of the story? Yeah, I did. Once again, was it necessary? Not really. But I still had some fun with it. So, I think this is kind of going to go in the same area. I think this is going to go in the same area of where, like, Snow White and Sorcerer's Apprentice is. Yeah, it's going to go, like, right here. Actually, no, yeah, it's going to go here. Because the CGI of everything else was better in Moana than in Snow White. But overall, that is my tier list of all 26 Disney live-action remakes. So, in my top 10, I have The Jungle Book, Maleficent, Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, Lion King, Cruella, 101 Dalmatians, Cinderella, Christopher Robin, and Mulan. And then following up is 11 at Pete's Dragon, 12 Beauty and the Beast, 13 The Jungle Book 1994, 14 Moana, 15 Snow White, 16 The Sorcerer's Apprentice, 17 Mufasa the Lion King, 18 Lady and the Tramp, 19 Lilo and Stitch, 20 Pinocchio, 21 Alice in Wonderland, 22 Maleficent Mistress of Evil, 23 Dumbo, 24 Alice Through the Looking Glass, 25 102 Dalmatians, and 26 Peter Pan and Wendy. So that's pretty much my tier list for all 26 live action remakes of Disney. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.